When we study world civilizations or world history, we're taking a look at people groups around the world that have survived for a period of time to be able to make the world history books, and a number of them have died out. There are several things that need to be settled or that need to be solved before a society of people can become a civilization and actually develop within the realm of world history. Those problems include the problem of resources. Each society has had to solve at some level the problem of resources. How do they get their resources, the use of natural resources? Those people groups that are best able to solve that problem are the ones that survive. Those that cannot solve that problem are usually conquered, or they eventually die out or are scattered about. The next thing that has to be addressed is social order. There has to be a move away from anarchy to some type of social order, some type of law, some type of place within society for a people group to actually become a civilization. If anarchy continues to be the way that a people group are trying to live together, again, they will eventually disseminate or they will be conquered by other people groups. Another one of the problems that has to be solved is defense. People groups need to be able to defend themselves from external threat, but also from internal revolt. And one of the things that we're going to see as we study world history is a number of reigns, I guess you could say, in history, a number of kings and queens or empires will fall from threats that are outside, but they'll also fall from threats from within. And so to maintain some type of stability with regards to defensive measures is important for a civilization to continue to survive. The last major thing that a civilization needs to be able to survive is the process of education. People need to be able to pass down to the younger generations their history. They need to pass down the things that they have learned. They need to pass down a means of education so that the younger generations, as they come up, are able to not only survive but to thrive and eventually help the civilization grow and expand even. And so one of the things that you're going to see as we study world history is that these four problems, resources, social order, the defenses, and education, are going to be woven in and out of our world history civilizations. Now, let's talk for just a minute about what a civilization is. A group of people, a society, is not a civilization. For a society of people to actually become a civilization, there are a number of things that have to be in place. The definition of a civilization is that it is a complex culture in which a large number of people share a variety of common elements. Civilizations did not begin in world history until about 6,000 years ago. And throughout our history, we've really had only like 24, 25 actual civilizations. We've had groups of people, we've had societies, we've had tribes, but to truly become a civilization, you have to take your society to that next step. And so there are several things that need to be in place within a civilization. You need to have an urban focus. There needs to be the use and expansion of cities. Cities need to play a key role, large cities especially, for a society to become a civilization. You need to have an organized government. There has to be some form of government. There has to be some type of legal system in place as well for a society to be able to become a civilization. You need to have a social structure. People need to have a place where they fit within society. Sometimes that place came from religion, as we'll see in India. Sometimes that place came from the government, and sometimes it was just established amongst the people themselves. You also need to have some type of religious structure. One of the things that we found throughout the study of world history is religion has played a huge role in not only the development of civilizations and the laws therein, but also the worldviews of the people. I teach a class on the history of world religions. And one of the biggest things that my students realize is religion has played and continues to play a huge role in history and in society. A lot of times we just kind of live in our little bubble here in America. We think that this is it with regards to religion, but it's not. And so there has to be some aspect of religious structure for the people. People have always had some form of religion. Atheism is a new phenomenon within the past couple hundred years. Prior to that, thousands and thousands, and still today, of years of religious activity. There needs to also be some form of writing. That's really interesting. Historians have kind of debated about that, but at some level, there has to be writing that of educate, or excuse me, of assessments, writing of records, things that will be used in education to be able to pass down to the later generations. Obviously, there needs to be a military structure, some aspect of a military. And one of the things that you'll see as we study our world history civilizations is that all civilizations are built along a pyramid, kind of a hierarchy. And you will find within the hierarchy, various groups have their place in society. Typically, at the top of our pyramid here, we have the king or we have the emperor, and then you have the vizier, you have those that are like his second in command. And then you work your way down by levels through our pyramid. And at the bottom level is always slaves. Slaves have been in every civilization throughout world history. Still, slavery is huge today. It's bigger today than it's ever been in world history. The military really has moved through the kind of levels of the pyramid or through the hierarchy based on what civilization you're in. For example, in the Roman Empire, your military was a little bit higher. China, the military's been always near the bottom. And so, with regards to social structure, where you fit in, political structure, where you fit in, it varies based on the world history. The last thing that a society needs to have to become a civilization is some type of artistic and intellectual activity. A lot of times we move away from this. We think that that is not important, but the arts have been extremely important throughout world history. Intellectual development and activity are also very important. And for a society to actually become a civilization, these elements need to be in place. And so we'll be looking at some civilizations in world history, but we'll also be looking at some tribes or some non civilizations. For example, the North American tribes that were here prior to the European arrival and expansion in the late 1400s, that was not a civilization. But if you were to go down to South America and visit, for example, the Aztecs, who were also here prior to the arrival of the Europeans in the late 1400s, the Aztecs were a civilization. So that is one example of a distinction or a change between those. We will also see that our civilizations grow up typically along rivers and expand from there. And these problems that will continually cycle through, how will we deal with resources and taking care of our people and defense and education, social order, all of these will weave in and out throughout our world history study.